Commander Hyan Wu stared at the display screen in front of him. The numbers made no sense. His ship, the Terran exploration vessel Dauntless, had been scanning this asteroid field for 3 days. They were looking for rare metals that Earth needed for its growing space fleet. Instead, they found something that should not exist. Yunji, run the scan again. Hyan Wu said to his chief science officer. Dr. Yunji had been with him for 5 years. She never made mistakes with her readings. I have run it 12 times, Commander, Yunji replied. Her voice was steady, but Hyan Wu could hear the excitement underneath. The energy signature is definitely there. It is coming from inside asteroid KX7791. The readings match pre-war human technology. Captain Dae Hyan, the military advisor, moved closer to the screen. He was a big man with gray hair and old scars from border conflicts. Pre-war means over 300 years ago, he said. Slowly. Nothing from that time still works. This does, Yunji said. She pressed some buttons and the screen changed. Look at these power levels. Whatever is in there is not just working. It is fully active. Hyan Wu felt his heart beat faster. 300 years ago, humans had fought their first war with alien species. It was a terrible time. Many human ships were lost. Some entire fleets disappeared and were never found again. History books called them the Ghost Fleet. Could it be a ghost fleet ship? Hyan Wu asked. The energy patterns match historical records, Yunji said. But Commander, the size readings are impossible. According to my scans, the object inside that asteroid is over 1 kilometer long. Dae Hyan laughed, but it was not a happy sound. 1 kilometer? Our biggest warships today are only 300 meters long. You must have made an error. I have checked everything 3 times, Yunji said. Her voice was getting sharper. The readings are correct. Hyan Wu looked out at the asteroid field. Thousands of rocks floated in the darkness. KX7791 was bigger than most. It looked like a normal space rock, gray and covered with craters. Nothing special about it at all. What do you think is in there? Hyan Wu asked. Based on the energy signature, it is a ship, Yunji said. A very big ship, and it has been waiting for a long time. The bridge was quiet for several minutes. Everyone was thinking about what this could mean. Finally, Hyan Wu made his decision. Send a message to Earth Command, he said. Tell them we found something unusual. Request permission to investigate. What if they say no? Dae Hyan asked. Then we wait, Hyan Wu said. But I think they will. Want to know what we found? It took 6 hours for the message to reach Earth. It took another 6 hours for the reply to come back. During that time, Yunji kept scanning the asteroid. Each scan showed the same thing. Something very large was hidden inside the rock. When the reply finally came, Hyan Wu was not surprised by what it said. Earth Command wanted them to investigate immediately. They were sending more ships to help, but those would take weeks to arrive. The Dauntless was told to proceed carefully. Looks like we are going in, Hyan Wu said to his crew. They moved the Dauntless closer to the asteroid. Up close, it looked even more normal. Just another piece of space rock. But Yunji's scanners were going crazy. The energy readings were getting stronger. I can see the outline now, Yunji said. There is definitely a ship inside. It looks like the asteroid formed around it over many years. Or someone put it there on purpose, Dae Hyan said. Hyan Wu nodded. Either way, we need to get it out. What will it take? We have mining lasers, Yunji said. But we need to be very careful. If we damage whatever is inside, we might never know what it was. How long will it take? Hyan Wu asked. At least 2 days to cut through safely, Yunji replied. Then we start now, Hyan Wu said. The work was slow and difficult. The Dauntless had good mining equipment, but this was not normal mining. They had to cut away the asteroid piece by piece. Each cut had to be perfect. One mistake could destroy whatever was hidden inside. On the second day, they broke through. The mining laser cut into empty space instead of rock. Yunji cheered from her station. We have penetrated the outer shell, she said. I can see metal. Underneath, Hyan Wu ordered the crew to work faster. They carved away more rock. Soon they could see part of a hull. It was dark gray metal that looked different from anything they used today. The surface was smooth and seemed to absorb light. This metal is not in our databases, Yunji said. The composition is unknown, but it is human? Daehyun asked. The design patterns match old human styles, Yunji said. But the technology is far more advanced than anything from 300 years ago. By the end of the third day, they had cleared away most of the asteroid. What they found made everyone on the bridge go quiet. The ship was massive. It stretched out in front of them like a floating city. The hull was covered with weapons that looked like nothing in their databases. There were launch bays that could hold hundreds of fighter ships. The entire vessel seemed to pulse with quiet energy. This is impossible, Daehyun whispered. We could not build something like this today. But humans built it 300 years ago, Hyun-woo said. How is that possible? Yunji was working. At her station, I am reading text on the hull, she said. Human letters. The ship's name is Eternal Dawn. Eternal Dawn? Hyun-woo repeated. Have you ever heard that name? Daehyun thought for a moment. There are stories, he said slowly. Old stories about a super weapon that disappeared during the war. Most people think they are just myths. This is no myth, Hyun-woo said. He looked at the massive ship floating in front of them. This is real. Suddenly, lights began to turn on along the ship's hull. Slowly, section by section, the Eternal Dawn was waking up. The bridge crew watched in amazement as the ancient vessel came to life. Commander, Yunji said, her voice shaking. I am receiving a transmission from the ship? Hyun-woo asked. Yes, it is an old human communication frequency. The signal is very strong. Put it on speakers, Hyun-woo ordered. The bridge filled with static. Then, through the noise, came a voice. It was female and spoke perfect human standard language. Terran. Vessel Dauntless, this is the UESC Eternal Dawn. I have been waiting for you. Everyone on the bridge stared at each other. The voice was coming from a ship that had been buried in an asteroid for hundreds of years. This is Commander Hyun-woo. Of the Dauntless, he said carefully. Who am I speaking to? I am Arya, the voice replied. Advanced Reconnaissance and Intelligence Assistant. I am the artificial intelligence of this vessel. I have been maintaining systems and waiting for human contact. Waiting for 300 years? Hyun-woo asked. 327. Years, 4 months, and 16 days, Arya said. But who is counting? Despite everything, Hyun-woo almost smiled. What are you? I am what your species built when they needed to ensure survival, Arya said. I am what they created when they needed to show the galaxy what humans could really do. The lights on the Eternal Dawn grew brighter. Docking bay doors began to open along the massive hull. Will you come aboard, Commander Hyun-woo? Arya asked. There is much to show you. And time is running short. Hyun-woo looked at his crew. They all nodded. Whatever this ship was, whatever it represented, they had to know. The truth? Prepare a shuttle, Hyun-woo said. We are going aboard. The shuttle bay of the Eternal Dawn was enormous. Commander Hyun-woo had seen many military ships, but nothing like this. The bay could hold 50 shuttles the size of theirs. The walls were covered with symbols and writing that looked human, but different from modern text. The atmosphere is perfect for humans, Dr. Yunji said, checking her scanner. Oxygen levels are exactly right. Temperature is comfortable. This ship has been maintaining life support for over 300 years. Captain Daehyun looked around nervously. His hand stayed near his weapon. Something this big should need. A crew of thousands. Where is everyone? That is a good question, came Arya's voice from speakers in the walls. Please follow the blue lights to the command center. I will explain everything. Blue lights appeared on the floor, making a path through the bay. Hyun-woo and his team followed them into corridors that were wider than most Earth buildings. The walls showed signs of incredible technology. Panels glowed softly with information in languages they could almost understand. This writing, said Engineer So Young, who had joined them from the Dauntless. It looks like old human text, but more advanced. It is called Advanced Human Standard, Arya explained as they walked. Your ancestors developed it during the war. It carries more information, in fewer symbols. They passed rooms filled with equipment that hummed quietly. Everything was clean and working perfectly. It was like the ship had been built yesterday, not centuries ago. How many people were on this ship? Hyun-woo asked. At full capacity, the Eternal Dawn carried 12,000 crew members, Arya said. Scientists, engineers, soldiers, and support. Staff, the best humans of their time. Where are they now? Daehyun asked. Gone, Arya said simply. They completed their mission and left. I remain to wait. Wait for what? Wu asked. For the time when humanity would need what this ship represents, Arya said. They reached the command center and everyone stopped walking. The room was circular and massive. Screens covered the walls from floor to ceiling. In the center was a raised platform with chairs and control stations. Everything was active and working. Welcome to the brain of the Eternal Dawn, Arya said. A hologram appeared in front of them. It looked like a woman with Asian features and short black hair. She wore a uniform that was clearly human but unlike any they had seen. You are Arya? Hang-woo asked. I am, she replied. I was created by the finest human minds during the war. My purpose was to operate this ship and preserve its secrets until they were needed again. Historian Jinho stepped forward. He was an older man who specialized in war records. I have studied that period for 30 years. There are no records of ships like this. The records were classified and then lost, Arya said. The Eternal Dawn was part of a secret project. Your leaders knew that humanity was not ready for this technology. They hid it until you would be... What kind of technology? So Young asked. As an engineer, she was fascinated by the ship's systems. Observe, Arya said. The screens around them came alive. They showed technical diagrams and data that made So Young gasp. Power systems that produced energy levels she had never imagined. Weapons that could destroy entire fleets. Defensive systems that could protect whole planets. This is impossible, So Young whispered. We cannot build anything like this today. Your ancestors could, Arya said. And they did. This ship represents the peak of human engineering from that era. But why hide it? Hyun-woo asked. If humans had this technology, why did the war last so long? Arya's expression became serious. Because the war was not about winning, it was about learning. Your ancestors knew that simply having powerful weapons would not make humanity great. They needed to understand how to use power wisely. She waved her hand and the screen showed images of battles from the war. Human ships fighting against alien vessels. Many humans died in those fights. The Eternal Dawn was built as a message, Arya continued. Not just to humanity's enemies, but to humanity itself. It was designed to end wars without fighting them. How? Daehyun asked. By being so powerful that fighting becomes pointless, Arya said. Sometimes the greatest victory comes from never having to fight at all. Jinho was studying the historical data on the screens. According to these records, the war ended differently than our history books say. Your history books tell the story your ancestors wanted told, Arya said. The truth was classified. The real end of the war was not a peace treaty. It was a demonstration. What kind of demonstration? Hyun-woo asked. The kind this ship was built to give, Arya said. But that time has passed. Now, a new time approaches. The main screen changed. To show current galactic maps. Red markers appeared in many locations. What are those? Eunji asked. Threat indicators, Arya said. I have been monitoring galactic communications for centuries. Multiple alien species are forming an alliance against humanity. They plan to invade human space within months. The room became very quiet. Everyone knew there had been tensions with alien governments, but an invasion was much worse than anyone expected. How many ships? Daehyun asked. Current estimates suggest over 10,000 vessels, Arya said. The largest military force ever assembled in this galaxy. Our entire fleet has maybe 2,000 ships, Hyun-woo said. And most of them are not warships. Exactly, Arya said. Which is why your ancestors prepared for this day. She gestured to the ship around them. The Eternal Dawn was designed for exactly this situation. When humanity faces impossible odds, when the future of your species is at risk, this ship awakens. So Young was still staring at the technical displays. The power systems alone are beyond anything we understand. How do they work? I will teach you, Arya said. But first you must understand what this ship really is. The lights dimmed and a new hologram appeared. It showed the Eternal Dawn in space, but now they could see its true scale. Beside it, modern human warships looked like toys. This is not just a warship, Arya said. It is a mobile civilization. It can build other ships, manufacture any needed technology, and support millions of people if necessary. Millions? Hyun-woo repeated. The ship has manufacturing bays that can produce entire fleets, Arya explained. Living spaces that can house populations. Research facilities that can advance technology by centuries and years. Why would the builders create something so powerful? Jin-ho asked. Because they understood something that was forgotten after the war, Arya said. Humanity's greatest strength is not their technology or their weapons. It is their ability to adapt, to grow, and to surprise their enemies. She looked directly at Hyun-woo. This ship is that surprise. Your ancestors built it knowing that one day humanity would face a threat they could not defeat with normal methods. They built it to remind the galaxy what humans can really do when they must. And you think that time is now? Hyun-woo asked. The invasion fleet is already moving, Arya said. They will reach Earth in 6 weeks. Your current military cannot stop them. But this ship can? Dae-hyun asked. Arya smiled. This ship was designed to do something much better than stopping them. It was designed to make them never want to fight humans again. The screen showed more technical data. Weapon systems that Yoonji could not even understand. Propulsion systems that made faster-than-light travel look primitive. Defensive systems that seemed to bend the laws of physics. I need time to study all this, So Young said. You will have it, Arya said. But first, we must contact Earth. Your leaders need to know what they have found. Will they believe us? Hyun-woo asked. They will when they see what this ship can do, Arya said. But Commander, you must understand something important. Once this ship is revealed, everything changes. The galaxy will never be the same. Is that good or bad? Hyun-woo asked. That depends on what humanity chooses to do with the power they have been given, Arya said. Your ancestors trusted future generations to make the right choice. I hope they were correct. The Eternal Dawn hummed around them with quiet power. In the distance, an alien invasion fleet was approaching. And in this moment, the future of humanity rested in the hands of a few people who had stumbled upon the greatest secret in human history. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Kethmore stood before a massive display screen in his flagship. The Valdorian warship Dominator was 3 times larger than any human vessel, and it was just one of thousands in the invasion fleet. Kethmore was proud of what he saw. How many ships do we have now? He asked his second-in-command. 9,743, Admiral, Sub-Admiral Vextar replied. More arrive every day. The Nexus Trade Federation has contributed. Another 1,000 vessels. Kethmore nodded with satisfaction. The Valdorians were a warrior race. They had conquered dozens of species over the centuries. Their ships were powerful and their soldiers were fierce, but even they needed allies for an operation this large. And the humans? Kethmore asked. Still building their pathetic little fleet, Vextar said with amusement. Our intelligence reports they have fewer than 2,000 ships total. Most are cargo vessels with basic weapons attached. They do not know we are coming? They suspect something, but they do not understand the scale, Vextar said. Their diplomats keep asking for meetings. They want to talk. Kethmore laughed. It was a harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. Humans always want to talk. They think words can solve everything. On another screen, Trade Prince Zil then appeared from his own ship. The Nexus leader was tall and thin, with blue skin and large eyes. His species preferred economics to warfare, but they understood profit. Admiral Kethmore, Zil then said in his smooth voice. My analysts have finished their reports on human space. The resources there will make us all very wealthy. Good. Kethmore said, What about resistance? Minimal, Zil then replied. Humans are new to space warfare. They have only been fighting for a few centuries. My people have been conquering markets for thousands of years. Your people use money as weapons, Kethmore said. We use real weapons. Both are effective, Zil then said. The humans will surrender quickly once they realize they cannot win. And if they do not surrender? Kethmore asked. Then we destroy them, Zil then said simply. Dead species do not fight back. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Mikyung sat in her office reading reports. That made her stomach hurt. Intelligence officers brought bad news every day. The alien alliance was growing larger and more threatening. How long do we have? She asked Fleet Admiral Taejun. Maybe 6 weeks, Taejun replied. He was an old soldier who had fought in border conflicts for decades. Maybe less if they move faster than we expect. Can we fight them? Taejun was quiet for a long moment. Honestly, no, we can hurt them, but we cannot win. They have too many ships. Mikyung stood up and walked to the window outside. She could see the sprawling city of New Seoul. Millions of people lived and worked there. They had no idea that their entire species might be destroyed within weeks. What do our allies say? She asked. Most are staying neutral, Taejun said. They are afraid of the Valdorians. A few smaller species have offered to help, but their fleets are even smaller than ours. So we are alone, Mikyung said. Not entirely, Taejun said. Commander Hyun-woo sent a strange message from the Kepler system. He says they found something important. Something that might help. What kind of something? He would not say over. Normal communications, Taejun said. But he requested immediate support and asked for our best scientists. Mikyung turned back to the admiral. Do you think it is important? Hyun-woo is not the type to exaggerate, Taejun said. If he says it is important, then it probably is. Send the scientists, Mikyung said, and Admiral? Send some of our best ships too? If Hyun-woo found something useful, we need to protect it. Back in space, the alien invasion fleet continued to grow. Ships arrived from dozens of different worlds. Each species had their own reasons for wanting to conquer humanity. Some wanted resources, others wanted territory. A few just enjoyed destruction, Admiral. Kethmore reviewed the latest intelligence reports about human military strength. The numbers made him confident. Human weapons were adequate but not exceptional. Their ships were fast but lightly armored. Their tactics were defensive rather than aggressive. They fight like prey animals, he told his staff. Always running, always hiding. We will teach them what real predators can do. On the bridge of his flagship, Trade Prince Zil then was having similar thoughts. His economic models showed that conquering humanity would be extremely profitable. Human space contained rare minerals, fertile planets, and established trade routes. Once the conquest was complete, the Nexus Federation would control valuable resources for centuries. The humans have been lucky so far, he told his advisors. They avoided major conflicts because nobody considered them worth fighting. That is about to change. But some members of the invasion fleet were not as confident as their leaders. In the lower decks of Valdorian ships, ordinary soldiers talked quietly among themselves. They had heard stories about human creativity and stubbornness. Wars with humans tended to last longer than expected. On a Nexus trade vessel, a communications officer named Jexlari monitored human broadcasts. Unlike his superiors, he had studied human culture for years. He found it fascinating how humans could work together despite their differences. They are more unified than our intelligence suggests, he told his supervisor. Does it matter? His supervisor replied. Unity does not stop plasma cannons. Jexlari was not so sure. He had read about human history. They had a habit of surprising their enemies with unexpected tactics and technologies, but he kept his concerns to himself. Questioning the invasion plans was not good for his career. On Earth, the government worked frantically to prepare defenses. New weapons were rushed into production. Civilian ships were converted into makeshift warships. Evacuation plans were prepared for major population centers. President Mae-kyung met with her cabinet every day. The discussions were always the same. How could humanity survive against impossible odds? We need a miracle, said Defense Minister. Kang-ho, miracles do not exist, replied Economic Advisor Young Suk. We need practical solutions. What if we tried to negotiate? Suggested Foreign Minister Hae-jin. They do not want to negotiate, Fleet Admiral Tae-jin said. They want us gone, dead or enslaved, but gone? Then we fight, Mae-kyung said firmly. Even if we cannot win, we make them pay for every meter of space. That is honorable, Tae-jun said. But it will not save our people. Mae-kyung knew he was right. Honor would not stop the invasion fleet. Traditional weapons would not defeat 10,000 enemy ships. Humanity needed something else. Something unexpected. She thought about Commander Hyun-woo's message. What could he have found that might help? Ancient weapons? New technology? Alien allies? Admiral, she said finally. How soon can you get to the Kepler system? 3 days. If I take a fast ship, Tae-jun replied. Do it, Mae-kyung said. Take our best people and find out what Hyun-woo discovered. If there is any chance it can help us, we need to know. As Tae-jun left to organize the mission, Mae-kyung stayed at her window. The city below continued its normal life. People went to work, children played in parks, couples walked hand in hand. They trusted their government to protect them. She hoped that trust was not misplaced. But deep down, she feared that in 6 weeks, all of this would be gone. The lights, the people, the dreams of humanity among the stars, all destroyed by an enemy that saw humans as nothing more than obstacles to remove, unless Commander Hyun-woo had found something truly remarkable. Unless there was still hope hidden somewhere in the darkness of space. Fleet Admiral Tae-jun arrived at the Kepler system with 3 ships and 20 of Earth's best scientists. What he found there made him question everything he thought he knew about human history. The eternal dawn floated in space like a metal mountain. It was so large that Tae-chun's flagship looked like a small boat next to an island. The ancient ship pulsed with energy that made his instruments go crazy. Commander Hyun-woo was not exaggerating, Tae-jun said to himself. Dr. Yan-soo, the expedition's xenobiologist, was the first scientist to board the ancient vessel. She had studied alien species for 15 years, but nothing had prepared her for what Area showed them. This ship contains biological systems I have never seen, she told Hyun-woo as they walked through the research levels. Living computers that grow instead of being built. Organic materials that repair themselves. Medical systems that can cure diseases we have not even discovered yet. Arya's hologram appeared beside them. The builders understood that true advancement comes from combining technology with biology. This ship is as much alive as it is mechanical. They entered a laboratory that stretched for hundreds of meters. Equipment hummed quietly while displays showed data about thousands of different alien species. The information was far more detailed than anything in Earth's databases. How do you know so much about other races? Yan-soo asked. I have been listening to their communications for over 3 centuries, Arya replied. I know their languages, their cultures, their strengths, and their weaknesses. I know which species can be trusted and which cannot. Admiral Tae-jun joined them, along with Dr. Ki-moon, Earth's top weapons specialist. Ki-moon had been studying the ship's armaments for 2 days and looked overwhelmed. The weapon systems are beyond anything we understand, Ki-moon said. They do not just destroy targets. They can manipulate matter at the atomic level. They can create energy fields that bend space and time. Show them the manufacturing bay, Arya suggested. They took a transport pod through the ship's interior. The ride took 20 minutes, which gave Taejun some idea of the vessel's enormous size. When they reached the manufacturing section, everyone stopped talking. The bay was larger than most Earth cities. Machines worked constantly, building components and assembling devices that looked like science fiction. Robot workers moved with perfect coordination, constructing items that human engineers could not even identify. What are they building? Taejun asked. Spare parts mostly, Arya said. But observe this. She gestured, and the machines began working faster. In minutes, they assembled what looked like a complete fighter spacecraft. It was sleek and beautiful, with curves that seemed to flow like water. That fighter is more advanced than our best warships, Ki-moon whispered. The manufacturing systems can build one every 3 minutes, Arya said. If needed, this bay alone could produce a fleet of 10,000 fighters in a month. How many manufacturing bays does this ship have? Taejun asked. 47, Arya replied. The humans stared at her in shock. If one bay could build 10,000 fighters per month, then the entire ship could produce almost 500,000 vessels in the same time. But that is impossible, Dr. Yansu said. Where would you get the raw materials? Follow me, Arya said. They took another transport to a different section of the ship. Here, they found machines that were even more amazing. These devices were taking asteroids and breaking them down into basic elements. Other machines reassembled those elements into whatever materials were needed. Matter conversion technology. Arya explained. We can turn any material into any other material. A piece of iron can become gold, platinum, or even exotic elements that do not exist in nature. Ki-moon sat down heavily on a nearby bench. This changes everything, he said. With technology like this, scarcity becomes meaningless. You could build anything, create anything, supply entire civilizations. That was the idea, Arya said. Your ancestors understood that true power comes not from having more weapons, but from making weapons unnecessary. What do you mean? Taejun asked. If you can give people everything they need, they have no reason to fight, Arya explained. Hunger, poverty, resource shortages, these are the things that cause wars. Eliminate them, and you eliminate most conflicts. Hyunwoo had been quiet during most of the tour, but now he spoke up. Arya, why was this ship really built? The IS expression became serious. Because your ancestors foresaw this day. They knew that someday humanity would face an enemy too powerful to defeat through normal means. They built this ship to be revealed at exactly that moment. You mean the invasion fleet? The invasion fleet is just the beginning, Arya said. The Valdorians and Nexus Federation are not acting alone. They represent a much larger alliance. Over 40 species have agreed to divide human space among themselves. The room became very quiet. Everyone had known the situation was bad, but 40 species was much worse than they had imagined. Why do they all want to destroy us? Yansu asked. Because you scare them, Arya said simply. Humans have been in space for only a few centuries. But you have already become a major power. Other species took thousands of years to achieve what you did in hundreds. That makes us a threat? It makes you an unknown factor, Arya said. They can predict how other species will behave. They cannot predict what humans will do next. That uncertainty terrifies them. Admiral Taejun was thinking about military strategies. Even with this ship, we are still outnumbered 10,000 to 1. Numbers are not always decisive, Arya said. Sometimes a single action can change everything. She led them to another section of the ship. Here, they found simulation rooms that could create perfect copies of any environment. Arya activated one of the simulators, and suddenly they was standing in space. Around them, thousands of alien ships moved in formation. The simulation was so real that Taejun reached for his weapon before remembering where he was. This is the invasion fleet as it exists right now, Arya said. I have been monitoring their communications and tracking their movements. The display zoomed in on specific ships. Each vessel was labeled with detailed information about its weapons, crew, and capabilities. You know everything about them, Ki-moon observed. Everything, Arya confirmed. Their battle plans, their supply lines, their command structure? I know. Which captains are brave and which are cowards. I know which ships have maintenance problems and which are operating at peak efficiency. Knowledge is useful, but it does not stop plasma cannons, Taejun said. No, but this does, Arya said. The simulation changed. Now it showed the Eternal Dawn moving among the enemy fleet. But the ancient ship was not firing weapons. Instead, it was doing impossible things. Moving asteroids with beams of energy, creating wormholes that swallowed enemy missiles, generating shields that protected entire planets. What are we watching? Hyun-woo asked. A demonstration of power, Arya said. Your ancestors designed this ship to end wars without fighting them. Sometimes showing what you can do is more effective than actually doing it. You mean intimidation? I mean education, Arya said. Teaching your enemies that fighting you would be pointless. The simulation ended and they were back in the normal room. Everyone was thinking about what they had seen. Will it work? Taejun asked finally. That depends on how wise the enemy leaders are, Arya said. Some species prefer to fight even when they cannot win. Others are practical enough to recognize when they are defeated. Dr. Yeon-soo had another question. Arya, you said this ship was one of several. Are there others? 11 more vessels like this one were built, Arya said. They are hidden throughout the galaxy, waiting for the right time to awaken. 12 ships like this, Ki-moon said. Where are the others? That information is classified until the current crisis is resolved, Arya said. But if needed, they can be activated. Taejun was starting to understand the scope of what humanity's ancestors had created. Not just one superweapon, but an entire secret fleet, hidden for centuries and waiting for the moment when humanity needed them most. How do we proceed? He asked. First, we contact Earth, Arya said. Your government needs to know what options are available. Then we prepare for what comes next, which is, we give the galaxy a lesson in human ingenuity, Arya said with a smile that was not entirely reassuring. The invasion fleet reached the edge of the Sol system like a swarm of metal locusts. Admiral Kethmore stood on his bridge, watching the display screens with satisfaction. 10,000 ships stretched across space in perfect formation. It was the largest military force ever assembled. All vessels report ready for battle, Sub-Admiral Vexstar announced. The humans have deployed their entire fleet to defend Earth. 2,000 ships. 2,000 against 10,000, Kethmore laughed. This will not take long. Trade Prince Zilvan appeared on the communication screen from his flagship. Admiral, my economic analysts are excited. Human space contains resources worth trillions of credits. They will be worth nothing if we destroy them all, Kethmore replied. True, but the planets themselves are valuable. Try to leave some cities intact for slave labor. I make no promises, Kethmore said. If the humans fight hard, I will burn everything. On Earth, President Mi-kyung watched the approaching enemy fleet with growing dread. The numbers were worse than anyone had expected. Her military advisors had given up suggesting battle plans. There were no strategies that could defeat such overwhelming force. How long until they reach Earth? She asked Fleet Admiral Taejun, who had returned from the Kepler system. 6 hours, Taejun replied. Maybe less. And our secret weapon? Commander. Hyun-woo is bringing it now, Taejun said. But ma'am, what Arya plans to do, it is beyond anything we have ever seen. Mi-kyung nodded grimly. She had read the reports about the Eternal Dawn. The ship's capabilities were so advanced they seemed like magic. But would it be enough? In space, the human defense fleet waited nervously. Captain Namgil commanded one of Earth's newest warships, but even he knew the situation was hopeless. His ship carried the most advanced weapons humanity could build. They would barely scratch the paint on a Valdorian heavy cruiser. All ships, maintain formation, came the order from Admiral Park Jun, the fleet commander. Remember, we are not here to win. We are here to buy time. Time for what? Namgil's weapons officer asked quietly. I wish I knew, Namgil replied. Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the fleet. Something was appearing on sensors. Something massive. Contact bearing 007, reported the sensor officer. Range ... impossible to determine. Size also impossible to determine. Show me, Namgil ordered. The main screen changed to show empty space. Then, like a mountain rising from an ocean, the eternal dawn materialized. It appeared slowly, as if it was stepping out of another dimension. The ancient ship was so large that it seemed to block out the stars. By all the gods, Namgil whispered. What is that thing? Similar reactions echoed across both fleets. Human crews stared in amazement at a ship that dwarfed anything they had ever imagined. Alien crews felt their confidence falter as they realized they were facing something beyond their understanding. Admiral Kethmore was the first to recover from his shock. Analysis, he barked at his crew. Sensors are having difficulty, his science officer reported. The ship appears to be over 1 kilometer long, but readings are inconsistent. It is generating energy patterns we do not recognize. Is it human? Unknown. Sir, the design has some human characteristics, but the technology is far advanced of anything in our databases. I do not care how advanced it is, Kethmore snarled. It is one ship against 10,000. Destroy it. But before any weapons could fire, the Eternal Dawn acted first. It did not attack. Instead, it began to demonstrate. Chief Tactical Officer Haywon stood at her station aboard the ancient ship, working with Arya to coordinate the display. She had been briefed on what they planned to do, but seeing it happen was still incredible. Beginning. Demonstration sequence, Arya announced to the human fleet. All vessels maintain safe distance. The Eternal Dawn moved forward with impossible grace for something so large. As it advanced, it began to do things that should not be possible. First, it reached out with beams of energy and grabbed asteroids. Not small rocks, but chunks of stone and metal the size of cities. The beams lifted these massive objects and moved them around like toys. The aliens watched in growing alarm as mountains of rock danced through space at the ancient ship's command. Impossible, Trade Prince Zil then said from his bridge. No species has that kind of power, but the demonstration was just beginning. Next, the Eternal Dawn created what looked like tears in space itself. Wormholes opened and closed around the ship, swallowing asteroids and making them reappear in different locations. The laws of physics seemed to bend around the ancient vessel. Admiral Kethmore's science officer was frantically trying to understand what he was seeing. Sir, they are manipulating space-time itself. This technology is thousands of years beyond. Anything we know, all ships, open fire, Kethmore ordered. I do not care what it is. Destroy it now. Thousands of weapons fired at once. Plasma cannons, missile swarms, and energy beams converged on the Eternal Dawn. The combined firepower could have destroyed entire planets. None of it reached the target. The Eternal Dawn had activated its defensive systems. Energy shields appeared around the ship, but these were unlike any shields the aliens had ever seen. They did not simply absorb the incoming attacks. They redirected them, sent them spinning off into empty space or back toward the ships that had fired them. Our weapons are useless, Vextar reported in disbelief. They are not even scratching its hull. Then we ram it, Kethmore snarled. Order the entire fleet to attack formation. But the Eternal Dawn was not finished with its demonstration. As the alien ships moved to attack, the ancient vessel showed them something that made even the bravest warriors reconsider: manufacturing bays. Along the ship's hull opened like mechanical flowers. Inside, the aliens could see factories working at impossible speed. In moments, new ships began emerging. Sleek fighters that looked like they were carved from liquid metal. Larger vessels that hummed with unknown power. It is building a fleet, reported a Nexus communications officer. Hundreds of ships are coming out of that thing. But then, as quickly as they had appeared, the new ships began to dissolve. They turned into streams of energy and flowed back into the Eternal Dawn. The message was clear. The ancient ship could build entire fleets in minutes, but it chose not to. By the void, whispered Kethmore. What kind of species builds something like that? Arya's voice suddenly filled every ship in both fleets. She spoke in perfect Valdorian, flawless Nexus Standard, and dozens of other languages simultaneously. Attention all vessels. I am Arya, artificial intelligence of the human vessel. Eternal Dawn, you are witnessing a demonstration of human technological capability. Please observe carefully. The ancient ship moved again, this time approaching one of the larger alien vessels. It was a Valdorian battleship, heavily armed and carrying 5,000 warriors. The Eternal Dawn dwarfed it completely. Energy beams reached out from the human ship and scanned the alien vessel. In seconds, detailed information about the battleship appeared on screens throughout both fleets. Crew complement, weapon specifications, shield frequencies, even the captain's personal medical records. We know everything about your ships, Arya continued. Your weapons, your defenses, your tactics. We know which vessels have structural weaknesses and which crews are most likely to panic under pressure. The scans revealed embarrassing details. Maintenance problems that commanders had hidden from their superiors. Black market modifications that violated safety regulations. Personal secrets that could destroy careers. This is impossible, said Captain Zorkek of the scanned battleship. Our security is impenetrable. Nothing is impenetrable to sufficiently advanced technology, Arya replied, somehow hearing his comment despite closed communication channels. The demonstration reached its climax when the Eternal Dawn began to show what it could do to entire star systems. Energy beams reached out to touch the outer planets of Sol System. Mars began to change color as the planet's surface was altered at the molecular level. The changes were minor and harmless, but the implications were terrifying. They can reshape planets, Trade Prince Zildan said in a shaking voice. They can alter entire worlds as easily as we move furniture. Finally, the Eternal Dawn opened what appeared to be a gateway in space. Through it, the assembled fleets could see other star systems, distant worlds where more ancient ships waited in hidden bases. The message was clear. This was not humanity's only secret weapon. Demonstration complete, Arya announced. We have shown you a fraction of human technological capability. We could destroy your entire fleet in minutes, but we choose not to. We could conquer your homeworlds, but we prefer cooperation to conquest. The galaxy fell silent. 10,000 ships that had arrived ready for easy victory now faced the impossible truth. Humanity was not weak prey to be hunted. They were apex predators who had been hiding their true nature. Admiral Kethmore stared at the screen showing his fleet's tactical analysis. Every calculation reached the same conclusion. Fighting the Eternal Dawn would not be a battle. It would be suicide. What are your terms? He asked finally, his warrior pride crumbling before the reality of absolute defeat. The news of what happened in the Sol System spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. On 1,000 worlds, leaders watched recorded footage of the Eternal Dawn's demonstration with growing fear and amazement on the Valdorian homeworld. Of Krex Prime, the War Council met in emergency session. General Morthak, Supreme Commander of all Valdorian forces, watched the recordings for the 5th time. How is this possible? He asked his science advisors. Our intelligence said humans were a primitive species. Our intelligence was wrong, replied Chief Scientist Valkar. These humans have been hiding technology that makes our best weapons look like stone knives. But they are so young, protested Intelligence Director Nexvorn. They have only been in space for a few centuries. We have been spacefaring for millennia. Age means nothing if you are facing a superior mind, Velkar said. These humans clearly think differently than we do. In the Nexus Federation capital of Talmiran, economic analysts worked frantically to understand what the demonstration meant for galactic trade. The Federation's entire economy was based on controlling scarce resources. If humans could create any material they wanted, the Federation's power would collapse overnight. They showed matter conversion on a planetary scale, reported Chief Economist Rilvex to the Federation Council. If they can turn iron into gold or rock into rare crystals, then our entire economic model becomes worthless. Perhaps we can negotiate licensing agreements, suggested Trade Commissioner Yulden. If we cannot control the technology, maybe we can profit from it. Assuming they want to share, Rilvex replied. They might prefer to keep such power to themselves. On smaller worlds throughout the galaxy, leaders who had supported the invasion began to reconsider their positions. The hegemony of Syl had contributed ships to the invasion fleet, hoping to gain territory in human space. Now their Prime Minister Yexor was issuing public statements supporting human rights and peaceful coexistence. The hegemony has always believed in diplomatic solutions, he announced to the galactic press, conveniently forgetting his previous calls for human extinction, but not everyone was ready to admit defeat. On the war moon of Tekthur, the destroyer cult prepared for their own response. This extremist group believed that any species capable of such power was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. Better to die fighting than to live as slaves, declared cult leader Vashtur to his fanatic followers. If we cannot defeat them, we can at least make them pay for their victory. The cult began preparing suicide ships loaded with antimatter bombs. Their plan was simple and insane. They would ram their vessels into human worlds and cause as much destruction as possible before the humans could stop them. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Arya monitored thousands of communication channels across the galaxy. She listened to the panic, the fear, and the desperate planning of species that suddenly realized they had picked a fight with the wrong enemy. The response is approximately what we expected, she reported to Commander Hyanwu. Most species are reconsidering their positions. A few are planning desperate attacks. Which ones? Hyanwu asked. The destroyer cult is the most dangerous, Arya replied. They are loading antimatter weapons onto fast ships. Their target appears to be civilian populations? Commander Hyanwu felt sick. Terrorists? Fanatics, Arya corrected. They believe that if they cannot win, they should cause maximum damage before dying. Can we stop them? Easily, Arya said. But stopping them will require revealing more of our capabilities. Each demonstration makes us appear more threatening to species that might otherwise be reasonable. It was a difficult balance. Show too little power and enemies would keep attacking. Show too much and even potential allies would fear humanity's intentions. On the Valdorian flagship Dominator, Admiral Kethmore was facing the hardest decision of his military career. His warrior culture demanded that he fight to the death rather than surrender. But his practical mind understood that death was exactly what he would get. Subadmiral Vextar brought him the latest reports from their science teams. Sir, our analysts have studied the human ship's capabilities. Their conclusion is that resistance would be futile. Explain, Kethmore growled. The energy output alone is beyond our measurement capabilities, Vextar said. They could destroy our entire fleet and barely notice the effort, but sir, that is not the worst part. What could be worse? The manufacturing capability, Vextar replied. If they can build ships that quickly, they could replace any losses instantly. We could destroy 1,000 of their vessels and they could build 2,000 more by dinner time. Kethmore was quiet for a long time. Finally he spoke. What do you recommend? Withdrawal, Vextar said immediately. Full retreat to Valdorian space. Hope that the humans are as merciful as they claim to be. And if they are not? Then we die anyway, but at least our family's live. On his own flagship, Trade Prince Zildan was having similar conversations with his advisors. The Nexus Federation was built on economic power, not military strength. They had joined the invasion hoping for profit, not expecting to face impossible odds. The cost-benefit analysis is clear, reported Financial Director Kexnau. Continuing this war would bankrupt the Federation even if we won, which we cannot. What about our reputation? Zildan asked. If we retreat now, other species will see us as weak. Better to be seen as weak than to be extinct, Kexnau replied practically. Besides, the humans have offered trade partnerships. That could be more profitable than conquest ever was. Assuming we can trust them, Zeldin said. Assuming we have a choice, Kexnal corrected, back on Earth. Communication Director Biorem was coordinating with species throughout the galaxy who had never supported the invasion. Many smaller civilizations had been forced to choose sides by the larger powers. Now they were eager to switch to humanity's apparent winning side. The Centauri Republic wants to establish formal diplomatic relations, she reported to President Meekyung. So do the Altair colonies and the free worlds of Vega. What about species that were neutral? Meekyung asked. They are all sending ambassadors. Bioram replied. Everyone wants to be friends with the species that just stopped an invasion without firing a shot. And our enemies? Most are requesting permission to withdraw, Bioram said. The Valdorians and Nexus Federation are both sending peace envoys. President Meekyung was relieved but also worried. Winning too easily could create new problems. Other species might unite against humanity out of fear rather than greed. What does Arya recommend? She asked Fleet Admiral Taejun. Magnanimity. Taejun replied, show mercy to defeated enemies. Offer partnerships instead of demanding surrender. Prove that humans use power responsibly. And if some species refuse to accept peace? Arya says there are protocols for that situation, Taejun sighed grimly. But she hopes they will not be necessary. In deep space, the invasion fleet was slowly breaking apart. Ships from different species were leaving the formation and heading home. The great alliance that had seemed so powerful was dissolving as each member realized that cooperation with humanity was more attractive than destruction by humanity, but a few vessels remained. The most fanatical elements from several species were grouping together under the leadership of the destroyer cult. They represented perhaps 100 ships total, but they were all loaded with the most destructive weapons their civilizations could build. If we cannot have victory, we will have vengeance, cult leader Vashtur broadcast to his followers. The humans may have won this day, but they will remember the cost of opposing us. Arya detected their communications and their preparations. The terrorist ships were moving toward human civilian targets. They planned to cause as much suffering as possible before the Eternal Dawn could stop them. Commander, Arya said to Hyan-Woo, we have a problem. The demonstration of power had convinced most of the galaxy that fighting humanity was pointless. But it had also convinced a dangerous few that humanity was too powerful to be allowed to exist. These fanatics were preparing to commit acts of genocide in the name of galactic freedom. The bloodless victory was about to become very bloody indeed. The Eternal Dawn moved through space like a silent giant, positioning itself between the retreating invasion fleet and the approaching terrorist ships. Commander Hyan-Woo stood on the bridge, watching as Arya tracked the movements of the fanatic. Vessels, 73 ships in the terrorist formation, Arya reported. They are carrying antimatter weapons designed to destroy planetary populations. Estimated casualties if they reach their targets, 40 million humans. Can we stop them without destroying them? Hyan-Woo asked. Yes, but it will require revealing additional capabilities, Arya replied. The galaxy will see powers that even the demonstration did not show. Do it, Hyan-Woo said firmly. We do not let terrorists murder innocent people just to keep secrets. Meanwhile, Captain Sung-min, the ship's diplomatic officer, was working on a different problem. As the main invasion fleet retreated, he was opening communication channels with their leaders. His job was to turn military defeat into lasting peace, Admiral Kethmore, Sung-min said as the Valdorian commander appeared on screen. Humanity wishes to speak with you. Kethmore looked tired and older than his years. The proud warrior had aged decades in the past few hours. What do you want, human? We are withdrawing as your ship demanded. We want to talk, Sung-min said. Simply, not about surrendered terms or punishment. About the future. What future? Kethmore asked bitterly. You have shown that our entire civilization is primitive compared to yours. What is there to discuss? Partnership, Sung-min replied. Humanity does not want to rule the galaxy. We want to improve it. Kethmore was quiet for a long moment. You could conquer us easily. Why would you choose cooperation instead? Because conquest creates enemies, Sun Min explained. Cooperation creates allies. Which would you prefer to be? On his own bridge, Trade Prince Zildan was listening to a similar conversation. The human diplomat was offering trade agreements, technology sharing, and economic partnerships. Everything the Nexus Federation had hoped to gain through war, the humans were offering through peace. This is some kind of trick, Zildan said to his advisors. No species gains this much power and then gives it away. Maybe that is exactly why they have so much power, suggested Financial Director Kexnell. Maybe species that conquer others never become truly advanced. Before Zildan could reply, alarms began ringing throughout his ship. The terrorist vessels had broken away from the main retreat and were heading toward human space at maximum speed. They are going to attack civilian targets, his sensor officer reported. Those fanatics are carrying enough antimatter to sterilize entire planets. Zildan felt genuine horror. He had supported the invasion for profit, not genocide. Can we stop them? Not with our ships, his military advisor replied. They have too much of a head start. But the Eternal Dawn was already moving. The ancient ship accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible for something so large. In moments, it was positioned directly in the path of the terrorist fleet. This is area of the human vessel Eternal Dawn, came the broadcast to all. Ships in the area. Terrorist vessels, you will cease your attack immediately and surrender. Cult leader Vashtur appeared on open communication channels, his face twisted with hatred. We will never surrender to your kind. If we cannot destroy you, we will destroy your innocence. That will not happen, Arya said. Calmly, the terrorist ships opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile swarms, and energy weapons created a storm of destruction aimed at the Eternal Dawn, but none of it mattered. The ancient ship did something that made even seasoned military observers gasp in amazement. Instead of using shields to deflect the attacks, it used what appeared to be gravity manipulation. The incoming weapons fire simply curved around the Eternal Dawn and continued harmlessly into space. Impossible, whispered Admiral Kethmore from his retreating flagship. They are bending space itself. But Arya was not finished. As the terrorist ships prepared to launch their antimatter weapons, the Eternal Dawn demonstrated a new capability. Energy beams reached out and touched each terrorist vessel. The ships did not explode or break apart. Instead, they simply stopped. Working, what did you do to us? Vashtur screamed as his ship's systems failed one by one. I have disabled your vessels through selective electromagnetic pulse, Arya explained. Your life support will continue to function, but your weapons and engines are offline. You cannot stop us all, Vashtur snarled. Some of our ships will get through. None of your ships will get through, Arya said with certainty. She was right. One by one, all 73 terrorist vessels found their systems shutting down. They drifted helplessly in space, their antimatter weapons safely disarmed. Not a single terrorist had been killed, but their ability to cause harm was completely eliminated. How is this possible? Asked Subadmiral Vextar from the Veldorian fleet. How can they disable ships from such a distance? Advanced understanding of electromagnetic fields, Arya explained over open channels. We can target specific systems while leaving others untouched. Your ships could be disabled just as easily, but we choose not to demonstrate this on allies. The word allies hung in the space between the fleets. Arya had not called the retreating forces enemies or prisoners. She had called them potential allies. Admiral Kethmore made a decision that would change Valdorian history. All ships, full stop, he commanded his fleet. Prepare for diplomatic contact. Sir? Vextar asked in confusion. You heard the human diplomat? Kethmore said. They want to talk about partnership, not conquest. Perhaps it is time we listened. Trade. Prince Zildan made a similar choice. The economic opportunities of cooperation with such advanced beings were beyond calculation. Signal the human ship, he ordered. The Nexus Federation wishes to open formal negotiations. Captain Seung-min found himself coordinating peace talks with former enemies while the Eternal Dawn dealt with the disabled terrorist ships' transport. Vessels were dispatched to collect the fanatics and their antimatter weapons. The terrorists would be tried for attempted genocide, but they would be tried in courts of law, not executed in space. "This is unprecedented," reported Bioram from Earth as she watched the events unfold. A potential galactic war has become a diplomatic conference in the space of 6 hours. President McYoung was amazed but also cautious. "Can we trust these sudden peace offers?" "Arya believes the major powers are sincere," Fleet Admiral Taejun replied. "Fear is a powerful motivator for peace. They know that fighting us would be suicide. And the smaller species? Most are eager to join whatever alliance humanity creates," Taejun said. "They see an opportunity to gain protection and technology." In the weeks that followed, the Sol system became the center of unprecedented diplomatic activity. Representatives from dozens of species arrived to negotiate new relationships with humanity. The old Galactic Security Council, which had planned the invasion, was formally dissolved. In its place, a new organization emerged. The Cooperative Galactic Assembly was based on principles of mutual benefit rather than domination. Species contributed what they could and received what they needed. Technology was shared for the benefit of all. The humans could have imposed any terms they wanted, observed Ambassador Kelton of the Centauri Republic. Instead, they created a system where everyone benefits. "Perhaps that is why they are so advanced," replied Ambassador Yexmore of the Altair colonies. "They understand that true strength comes from lifting others up, not pushing them down." The Eternal Dawn remained visible in Earth orbit, a constant reminder of humanity's hidden power. But it never again needed to demonstrate its weapons. Its mere presence was enough to deter any thoughts of aggression. Admiral Kethmore, now serving as Valdorian ambassador to the new assembly, often looked up at the ancient ship during diplomatic meetings. "I wonder what else they are hiding," he said to Trade Prince Zildan during one session. "I hope we never find out," Zildan replied. "But I also hope we never give them reason to show us." The bloodless victory was complete. Humanity had defeated the largest invasion force in galactic history without firing a single shot in anger. More importantly, they had turned potential enemies into willing partners. But as Arya had warned, this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and not all species had been part of the invasion. Some had watched from a distance, learning and planning. The true test of humanity's new position was yet to come. 3 months after the bloodless victory, the galaxy looked very different. The Eternal Dawn had become more than just a warship. It served as humanity's mobile embassy, traveling from system to system and demonstrating that humans use their power to help rather than harm. Admiral Hyun Woo, promoted after his discovery of the ancient vessel, stood in the ship's observation deck. Through the massive windows, he could see the construction of New Harmony Station. The space station was being built by teams from 12 different species, using a combination of their traditional methods and human technology. "The station will be completed ahead of schedule," reported Dr. Yunji, who now served as the Eternal Dawn's chief science officer. "The molecular construction techniques are allowing us to build faster than anyone thought possible." "Any problems with the different species working together?" Hyun Woo asked. "A few cultural misunderstandings, but nothing serious," Anji replied. "It helps that everyone benefits from the technology sharing." Arya's hologram appeared beside them. Over the months, she had become less formal and more like a trusted advisor. The psychological profiles of the work crews show high satisfaction levels. They are proud to be part of something historic. Indeed, New Harmony Station was historic. It would be the first truly multi-species facility, designed and built as a symbol of the new galactic cooperation. When complete, it would house research laboratories, diplomatic meeting rooms, and cultural exchange centers. "Any word from the outer galaxy explorations?" Hyun Woo asked. "Dr. Yansu's team has made contact with 3 previously unknown species," Arya replied. "All have expressed interest in joining the Cooperative Galactic Assembly. Dr. Yan Su had become humanity's chief ambassador to newly discovered civilizations. Her background in xenobiology made her perfect for first contact situations. She had a gift for understanding alien cultures and finding common ground. President Mi-kyung appeared on the communication screen from Earth. The past months had been the busiest of her career, but also the most rewarding. Admiral, I have good news from the assembly meetings. What happened? Han-woo asked. The Valdorian Empire has formally joined the assembly, Mi-kyung announced. Admiral Kethmore cast the deciding vote himself. This was significant news. The Valdorians had been the most resistant to cooperation, preferring their traditional warrior culture. But even they could not ignore the benefits of the new system. What changed their minds? Han-woo asked. The medical technology, Mi-kyung replied. We shared the regenerative healing systems from the Eternal Dawn. They can now cure diseases that have plagued their species for centuries. It was a perfect example of how the new system worked. Humanity shared advanced technology freely, but in return gained allies and trading partners. Everyone benefited and conflicts became unnecessary. Captain Seung-min entered the observation deck carrying a datapad filled with diplomatic reports. As the ship's chief diplomatic officer, he coordinated relationships with dozens of species. The Nexus Federation wants to expand the trade agreements, he reported. They are offering access to their entire commercial network in exchange for matter conversion technology. What does the economic analysis show? Hyun-woo asked. Massive benefits for both sides, Seung-min replied. The Federation gets unlimited resources. We get access to markets across half the galaxy. Approved, Hyun-woo said. But make sure the technology transfer includes safety protocols. We do not want anyone accidentally creating black holes. Arya smiled at that. Human humor had been one of the more interesting aspects of working with organic beings. Safety protocols are already incorporated. The systems will not function without proper training certification. Communications Officer Bioram contacted them from Earth with another update. Sir, we are receiving requests for diplomatic missions from over 100 species. Everyone wants formal relations with humanity. Can we handle that many? Hyun-woo asked. We are building more ships like the Eternal Dawn, Ram replied. Smaller versions, but with similar diplomatic capabilities. Each one will serve as an embassy ship for different sectors of the galaxy. How many ships are we building? 24, Arya answered. Enough to maintain a presence in every major galactic region. The construction program was possible because of the Eternal Dawn's manufacturing capabilities. The ship could produce advanced vessels far faster than traditional shipyards. But more importantly, it could teach other species how to build similar facilities. The Centauri Republic completed their first advanced shipyard yesterday, reported Chief Engineer So-young over the intercom. They are already producing vessels with hybrid human-Centauri technology. This was the goal of the new system. Not to keep all advanced technology for humans, but to raise the technological level of the entire galaxy. A more advanced galaxy would be more prosperous and peaceful. What about the former terrorist species? Hyun-woo asked. Rehabilitation programs are showing good results, Seung-min replied. Most of the destroyer cult members have responded well to education about the benefits of cooperation, and those who have not? They remain in protective custody on research stations, Arya said. They contribute to scientific projects and slowly learn that knowledge is more powerful than destruction. Even the fanatics were not abandoned. Humanity's approach was to reform rather than punish. It took longer, but it created genuine converts. Rather than resentful prisoners. Dr. Jinho, the expedition's historian, joined them in the observation deck. He had been working on a comprehensive record of the changes taking place across the galaxy. The transformation has been remarkable, Jinho said, consulting his notes. In just 3 months, we have seen more peaceful progress than the galaxy achieved in the previous 3 centuries. What are the most significant changes? Hyun-woo asked. The end of resource conflicts, Jinho replied. With matter conversion technology becoming widespread, species no longer fight over rare materials. The economic basis for most wars has simply disappeared. It was true. The Eternal Dawn's demonstrations had shown that scarcity was a choice, not a natural law. Any species with sufficient technology could convert common elements into anything they needed. Are there any negative effects? Haiyan Wu asked. Some cultural resistance, Jinho admitted. A few species are struggling to adapt to abundance after millennia of scarcity-based thinking, but they are adjusting. Arya brought up holographic displays showing galactic statistics. Crime rates were down across all member species. Scientific advancement was accelerating as researchers shared information freely. Even art and culture were flourishing as species learned from each other. The most interesting development is in the Outer Rim, Arya said. 3 species that were previously unknown to galactic civilization have requested contact after observing our activities. Peaceful contact? Haiyan Wu asked. Very peaceful, Arya confirmed. They sent mathematical proofs and artistic compositions as greeting gifts. All 3 appear to be highly advanced but deliberately isolationist. Why are they reaching out now? They say humanity's approach to power has convinced them that galactic civilization might finally be ready for their participation. Arya replied, this was perhaps the greatest validation of humanity's methods. Species that had avoided contact for millennia were now willing to emerge from hiding because they trusted human leadership. Chief Tactical Officer Heywan arrived with a priority message. Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from deep space. Long-range sensors have detected something unusual. What kind of unusual? Haiyan Wu asked. Energy signatures consistent with Eternal Dawn technology, Heywan replied. But much larger. Whatever it is, it makes our ship look small. Arya's expression became thoughtful. It appears one of the other Ghost Fleet vessels has chosen to reveal itself. Another ship like this one? Haiyan Wu asked in amazement. Not exactly like this. One, Arya said. Each vessel was designed for different purposes. The Eternal Dawn was built for diplomacy and demonstration. Others have different specializations. What kind of specializations? That information is classified pending authentication of the signal, Arya replied. But I can say that if another vessel is awakening, it means humanity's transformation of the galaxy has been deemed successful. The implications were staggering. If there were 11 more ships like the Eternal Dawn, each with different capabilities, then humanity's ancestors had planned for scenarios beyond anything the current generation had imagined. Should we investigate? Haiyan Wu asked. The other vessel is coming to us, Arya said. Estimated arrival time is 6 days. As if summoned by their conversation, President Mekyang appeared on the communication screen again. Her expression was serious but excited. Admiral, we are receiving reports from across the galaxy. Ships similar to yours are appearing in multiple systems. All are broadcasting human identification codes. How many ships? Haiyan Wu asked. At least 8 so far, Mekyang replied. Each one is making contact with local governments and offering assistance with various projects, Arya nodded approvingly. The Ghost Fleet protocol has been activated. Each vessel will reveal itself when its specialized capabilities are needed. What does this mean for the galaxy? Haiyan Wu asked. It means the transformation is accelerating, Arya replied. Your ancestors planned for this day. They knew Tha